Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Mr. Muskie Charters, offering full-service guided fishing trips for walleye, muskie, bass, and sturgeon on Lake St. Clair and the Detroit and St. Clair rivers. Booking information is online at mrmuskiecharters.com. Hey everybody, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors, and thank you so much for joining us this week. And we do want to address the last couple of weeks here on Michigan Out of Doors. We've had some reruns that have aired across the state. That was not our intention. Our plan was to air Big Buck Night East and then Big Buck Night West, and those are on our website. Those are also on YouTube. You can check them out. There's some great stories, some big deer, but we had some technical issues with those shows and we were not able to air those on PBS. So we apologize for that, apologize for the reruns over the last couple of weeks, but we are back on this week with all brand new stuff. We're going to start on the Big Manistee River, show you some really good steelhead fishing. Then we're going to go over to the east side of the state where Jenny's going to show us some good tips on getting your boat ready and some good things to be thinking about as we start the boating season. And I'm going to sit down with the new, actually brand new DNR director, somebody who's only been on the job for a few months, and we're going to find out what drives him as an outdoorsman. Lots of good stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan Out of Doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's destination since 1988. Featuring varieties of homemade sausage, jerky, brats, and gourmet entrees. Holiday gift boxes can be assembled in-store or online. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By AnglerQuest Pontoons, a mid-Michigan company building boats for fishermen by fishermen. AnglerQuest Pontoons are designed for comfort and functionality. On the web at anglerquestpontoons.com.
Soaking in the rich tradition of Michigan hunting for over 30 years, Vanguard is proud to sponsor our friends at Michigan Out of Doors TV.
On the Big Manistee River today. We're going to be fishing primarily below High Bridge and above High Bridge. We put in at High Bridge and we'll be up and down. Primarily what we're doing today is float and spawn and beads, some jig and waxworms if we get higher in the system. I think today's April 4th and beautiful morning, and it's chilly. I think the run is probably 10 days to 2 weeks behind normal. We had with our late spring, so we started downriver thinking we're going to try to catch some fresh fish coming up, and we may end the day up above trying to catch some of the winter fish that have migrated upstream to begin their spawning cycles. Water temperature still chilly, 38, 39 degrees, so we're not going to find many fish on gravel, but that's not really what we're after today. We're primarily bobber fishing and trying to catch migrating steelhead coming up to do their thing. So that's what we're doing this morning.
What we do is we fish with very, very long rods, anywhere from 11 to 14. Some guys even fish 15 feet rods. What that allows you to do is keep a lot of your line off the water and get really, really great natural drifts. Today we're fishing a center pin reel. We all are. It allows you, it's basically a free spooling reel with no drag on it at all. It just allows you to get really, really great natural drifts down the river here. And these long rods, between the long rods, keeps your line off the water, and then the center pins with no drag. It's basically a fly reel with bearings and no drag that just free spools as you go down, so you can just get great natural, really, really long drifts, which is ideal for fishing this type of a river.
Well, we've hooked our first one for the day here. It feels pretty nice. trying to catch up to it right now. These center pins, you can make really long drifts, and that one I probably hooked 100 feet down.
A little bit out of reach for you. There you go. Good job. Nice. Nice.
Beautiful fish. I think that things have definitely, we got off definitely a later spring, which has affected the numbers of fish. I think there's still some, I mean, here we sit the first week in April, and normally I would say the southern Michigan rivers have peaked or past peak at this point. The northern Michigan rivers are starting to peak or peaking, you know, over the next week to 10 days. This year, it seems like our southern Michigan rivers, for the most part, be peaking right now, and the northern Michigan rivers are just getting going real well, I think. So I mean, it's definitely been slower year than what I would say normally it is for this time of the year. Normally it's, you're hitting 5, 10, 15 fish a day, you know, on your good days, and it's been a lot of 3 to 5 fish days for everybody that kind of know what they're doing. So it's been tougher, but it's fun getting out here and trying and getting after them still. So I would say that's kind of where we're at with the run right now.
Well, we got one. Put a bead on, and that's what he first drift through there. My favorite bead color. Oh, I hate it when they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. Cromer, beautiful. Been a little slow this morning. Beautiful day. Getting a little bit of overcast. That might help the situation out a little bit. These fish are just starting to get here late this year.
The morning bite was a little slow. We only landed 2 steelhead in about 5 hours of fishing. So we decided to take a quick break and make some lunch, hoping that the fish would turn on in the afternoon. Before we started fishing again, I asked Luke to walk me through his setup.
As far as the pattern goes and what we do, and this is personal preference completely. Usually I run on the Big Manistee between a 15 and 20 gram flow. I'm fishing a Raven today, 15 gram. And I put mainline on my center pin that's about 15 to 17 pounds, and I attach my bobber or my float directly to my main line. And then what I'll do is I'll go to a shot line, which is here. That's 12-pound Maxima. And then I go down to another leader line at the bottom here, which is 8-pound Seagar. So the goal is, this is a very, very snaggy river for those people who haven't fished it or have fished it. They know that. What you want to do when you do get a snag, you just want to break your leader off so you're not losing bobbers and you're not having to retie shot lines all the time. Well, it's been a tough day, but we are slowly picking away at them. I think this is the 5th fish we've hooked out of here today, or 5th fish we've hooked, and 1:32 o'clock, so it's definitely been a lot slower than normal, but we're picking away at them.
Hey, all right, good job. Yeah, all little clones.
There's a lot of different spring fishing opportunities here in Michigan, but fishing for steelhead on a northern Michigan river is pretty tough to beat, and you'd be hard-pressed to find Luke fishing for anything else.
I've probably been steelhead fishing since I can remember. There is a story floating around out there about my dad, who's fishing with us today, putting me in the boat with a baby carrier. And as a new dad to 2 young kids, I can certainly recognize that it's fun getting the little ones in the outdoors and getting them involved as soon as possible. So he had me in the boat, I think, before I could even crawl. So I grew up with it, really. I love to steelhead fish. It's probably my favorite fish in the state to catch. They tend to be very, very eager biters, so they bite really well. It's a long season. You can catch steelhead October all the way through May, and then we do even have summer steelhead in the state of Michigan, which you can catch in the summer months. So you can kind of target them all year in the rivers and in the big lake. Very, very aggressive, acrobatic type of fish. They fight good. They fight very, very hard. And they're an absolute blast to catch.
Well, the day started out with Luke catching a nice fish right off the bat, then it slowed down, and then John pulled one out, and then Luke got another one. I was kind of last in line. I got the heat put on me, and finally I pulled one out, so I feel pretty good. Fishing's been slow, but hey, 4 fish on a slow day, I'll take that. Why did you fish out?
Another chromer.
Nice.
Nice.
The afternoon bite turned out to be pretty good. We ended up landing 5 fish total on a beautiful April day in northern Michigan. Special thanks to Luke, John, and Rick for showing us all around the Big Manistee River.
Well, it's that time of year here in southern Michigan. The ice is gone. We're pulling the boats out of the pole barns and garages and hitting the water chasing after walleyes. So we thought we'd bring you some quick reminders about boating safety and update you on some new boating and fishing laws. It's springtime in Michigan, and that means thousands of anglers will be taking to the rivers and lakes in search of those delectable walleyes that run this time of year. So we thought it would be a good idea to visit with the Coast Guard for some important reminders on how to stay safe and have fun out on the water this spring.
Boating is inherently dangerous, and that's why the Coast Guard is here, so that we go out and do boardings on recreational and commercial boats to make sure everybody is safe. 84% of all boating fatalities occur when somebody is not wearing a life jacket. So the most important thing people could do is wear a life jacket. In addition, vessels that are 16 feet and larger also need to have a throwable flotation device, and that way if something does happen to somebody on board your vessel, they can grab it and throw it. It needs to be within reach so that you're not digging underneath a compartment or trying to find it below a seat or underneath all your fishing gear if somebody needs it. Just like in a car accident, trying to put your seatbelt on during or after the accident is too late. The same thing applies for a life jacket. So we encourage everybody to wear them. Alcohol is still the lead contributing factor to boating accidents and fatalities. 19% of all fatalities involve alcohol. The Coast Guard has an app that is a great resource for people to use. The Coast Guard app is, if you type in U.S. Coast Guard into the Google or Android app store, you'll be able to pull it up. And on that app, you can report suspicious activities as well as any navigational hazards and any sort of pollution that you want to report anonymously through the app. Being located so close to the Canadian border, it's important for people to report any sort of suspicious activity that they do see on the Coast Guard app as well. On that app, you can file a float plan, which people need to do anyways, whether on the app or a paper copy, which you can find online. And what that is able to do is you fill it out and tell people where you're going to be going, how long you're going to be there, and when you plan on to return. So if something does happen, the Coast Guard or other local agencies know where to start looking for you. Also on the Coast Guard app, you can look up for the requirements for safety gear for your vessel of any size and type, which is a really great resource. The main thing people need to check before putting their boat in the water is to check weather conditions, know what the waves and winds are going to be for that day and projected out into their trip. Also want to make sure they have enough life jackets, 1 life jacket per person while they're on board. Make sure that their drain plugs are in their boat, their fire extinguishers are not out of date. Also a sound producing device so that if something does happen, you can alert other people for help. As well as we encourage people to have a VHF radio so that they can call the Coast Guard on channel 16. Also, if people have the type of life jackets that are inflatable, they need to make sure that they're doing the maintenance on those every year so that they will work in the event that you need them. Here in Port Huron and on the St. Clair River and Detroit River, there is a very high commercial traffic area that has a lot of freighters going north and southbound on the river. We want to make sure that people stay clear of the freighters and use safe navigation and follow the rules of the road while they're transiting and fishing in their vessels. And we just want everybody to be safe and have fun out on the water.
We hope everyone has a safe and successful fishing season this year. And speaking of fishing and boating, there are some new laws here in Michigan that took effect on March 21st. In an effort to stop the spread of aquatic invasive species, boaters and anglers need to be aware of the following changes. In addition to removing all aquatic plants from boats and trailers before transporting, we'll also need to remove all drain plugs and drain any water from bilges, ballast tanks, and live wells. And make sure there are no aquatic organisms on our boats and trailers once we load up at the boat ramp. That means once you load your boat back onto the trailer and pull it out of the water, you'll need to take all of these precautions before hitting the road. New rules are also in effect for using live bait and practicing catch and release while fishing in Michigan. It's now prohibited to release any bait into the water when you're done fishing. Unused cut bait or live bait should be disposed of on land or in the trash, never into the water. If you catch your own bait fish, they may be used on the waters you caught them on. Caught bait fish can be released, but only back into the water or connecting waters where you originally caught them. The same goes for catch and release fishing. If you plan to release a fish, it must be released back into the water or connecting waters where it was originally caught. If we all follow these new boating and fishing rules, we can help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species to new bodies of water here in one of our state's finest resources.
Well, when it comes to the outdoor world here in the state of Michigan, there are a lot of people in that conservation conversation. One of those folks is Dan Eichinger. Now, Dan is somebody that both Jenny and I used to work with years and years ago when he was an intern at MUCC. Well, he is now the brand new director of the DNR. I was able to sit down with him in his office to find out a little bit more about his background and address some of the hot topics of today. Well, hey everybody, we are here with Dan Eichinger, the brand new director of the DNR. Not even been on the job, what, 3 months maybe, if that?
Just about.
Yeah, and Dan and I worked together at MUCC years ago. We were just talking about that, 2002 to 4-ish. So Dan, just for people that don't know you, and I got to know you years ago, but I know you've been bouncing around Lansing, just kind of talk a little bit, how'd you get in the outdoors? What are some of your favorite outdoor pursuits? And just kind of walk us through how you got into this position.
Sure. Well, I kind of grew up in the outdoors. I mean, hunting and fishing, hunting, fishing, camping, those were things that I did when I was growing up as a kid. My parents, my grandfather, they got really involved in the kind of citizen-based conservation work, so they were really active in MUCC, National Wildlife Federation. And, you know, I just kind of absorbed a lot of that when I was a kid. And, you know, I talk about, you know, kind of my journey, if you want to call it that, or, you know, sort of the path that I've been on to get into the career field that I have. Didn't really start in a lecture hall at MSU. I didn't start in a cubicle in office. I actually started on a 16-foot fishing boat with my grandfather on Lake Misaki, catching, you know, bluegill, bass, crappie, that kind of thing. And, you know, it was just absorbing a lot of how my parents engaged in the outdoors and how my grandparents engaged in the outdoors. And when I went to school at MSU, I studied political theory, nothing to do with fisheries and wildlife, nothing to do with natural resources management. I had to do an internship as a part of my undergraduate degree program, and that's what caused me to go knock on Sam Washington's door, was the executive director at the time at MUCC, and just said, hey, I'll come work for free. I just want to get some experience and exposure in the policy arena, and that's kind of what launched me on my way.
And so now, with your time at MUCC, when you were there and was the executive director for how many years there?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. And some folks know this out there, some don't, but MUCC throughout the years kind of been known as like a watchdog for the DNR to kind of, what are they up to? Are the citizens, you know, issues being raised enough and bringing policy to them? And So with your time at MUCC, kind of watching the DNR from outside, and now you're the DNR. Is that experience good, bad? How does that help you, as you start this job?
I think it's really important to have that perspective because, I'm kind of fond of saying, at least recently, that, conservation is a team sport in the state of Michigan. So what that means is that, the Department of Natural Resources, we have our lane, but we're a very public-facing organization, and a lot of the work that we do, the management that we do that in participation with our user base. So if it's hunters, anglers, campers, hikers, bikers, snowmobilers, whoever it might be, there are a lot of paths into the department to help influence and shape what we need to be doing and things that we need to be working on. So having a real appreciation for and fidelity to the role that citizens play and our stakeholders play in sort of setting the course for the agency, I think is really important. And if you've kind of grown up in that environment as I have, you don't leave that behind when you come into a role like this. You bring it with you. And that's what I'm going to try and do here, is make sure that our department is, as kind of forward-facing and public-facing as we can be, and welcome folks into the conversation about how we best manage and steward our natural resources.
Nice. And before we get into specifics, talk to me a little bit about your outdoor experience. So you grew up doing obviously a little fishing and a little hunting. So you get some time, middle of the fall. What is it that you love to chase?
Grouse and woodcock. That is,
okay.
That's my thing. I did some grouse and woodcock hunting when I was a younger kid. Then I got into bow hunting for a while, and then I got real serious about grouse and woodcock hunting again, and then I just had to kind of eschew bow hunting so that I could spend all my Saturdays in October chasing grouse and woodcock. And now that we've got I've got my hunting dog, and my kids are 8 and 5, and so my 8-year-old is now starting to kind of get interested in tagging along and going on grouse and woodcock hunts with me and Hans, the dog. So I spend a lot of Saturdays, or as many Saturdays as I can, especially in October, finding tight aspen cover,
nice.
Looking for woodcock mostly, and grouse.
Okay, do you have a favorite woodcock recipe?
Yes, I do. It's, woodcock have a terrible reputation as not being very good table fare, but I really like to eat woodcock. There are two ways. I like that we have a good kind of woodcock pate recipe that we make, so that's really good for breast meat. And a lot of folks, they don't cook the legs.
Yeah.
And on most game birds, the white meat, incidentally, is the leg meat. And
so I've been missing out on woodcock leg meat all these years?
Yeah, and it's really good. Now, it's not a lot of meat, but it's really good. You
nice.
Toss it on the grill, real hot, salt it down, and
just wave it over the grill and it's probably done.
Pretty much.
Nice. Now, one thing that I don't know the answer to this to, and I've known some of the other directors over the years, but not anybody that I've worked with before, and so I don't know why I didn't ask them this, but how much power does the director of the DNR have when it comes to issues that might be facing sportsmen? Let's just say, and we'll talk about baiting here in a little bit, but could you just end a baiting ban? Could you just say, we're going to now do this? How much power does the director, what can you actually get away with?
A lot of folks, or many folks, I think, are familiar with the Natural Resources Commission.
Yep.
So that's the 7-member body that's appointed by the governor, and that commission has the exclusive authority to regulate the method and manner of taking game and fish. So anything having to do with, methods of hunting, manner of take, that type of thing, that's all within the purview of the Natural Resources Commission.
Okay.
Now, the department has an opportunity to help inform the decisions that the commission makes, because we might provide recommendations, or we provide, background material, or we'll study an issue, or that kind of thing. But I don't have a lot of independent authority as it relates to, at least to that sort of basket of functions.
So if you were really passionate about, I don't know, you wanted to extend grouse season a month, let's just say, or whatever, you would have to go to the NRC, and that would have to be approved by them.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Season structure, season length, bag limits,
That's all their deal.
that kind of thing, that's all the purview of the Natural Resources Commission.
So if you wanted to give Bob Garner or Jimmy Gretzinger an elk tag, you have that power, or you don't have that power?
I like how you worked that in there, and I'm happy to say I do not have that power.
I didn't think you did, but I just threw it out there. Well, thanks to Dan for sitting down with us. And actually, on next week's show, we're going to have him talk about doves. We're going to talk about sandhill cranes. We're going to talk CWD, deer management, and wolves as well. Lots of good stuff. Make sure you join us next week.
Thanks for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you stick around over the next few weeks. We'll be transitioning into full-blown springtime. We'll be doing some more fishing out on the water, and we'll be turning our thoughts towards the turkey season. Make sure you join us. If we don't see you in the woods or on the water, we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by GreenStone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of GreenStone's 37 locations or greenstonefcs.com. By EOTech, a Michigan company, equipping law enforcement and sportsmen alike with quality optics, creating jobs for Michigan workers. On the web at eotechgear.com. By Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises of Munising, exploring Lake Superior's Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. With its sandstone cliffs, caves, waterfalls, and lighthouses, Pictured Rocks Boat Cruises on the web at picturedrocks.com. Closed captioning provided by Randy's Hunting Center, serving Michigan as Ruger and Leupold's National Dealer of the Year, and inventor of Ruger's 450 Bushmaster rifle.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above, I love this land. I am a Michigan man. From the Keweenaw down to St. Joe, Kalamazoo, east to Monroe, to St. Marie.